Never use training wheels. It's as simple as that. If you are wanting your kid to ride a bike at some point in time, the best thing you can do for them is to skip out on the training wheels and to skip out on the pedals. My 3-year-old recently learned how to ride his pedal bike in a single day. Look at you go! Nice!
Can you just give me a little head start?
Yes. So it's very fresh on my mind. Not only am I going to share with you exactly how I taught all 3 of my kids to learn to ride a bike without any headache, but I also have some research to fill you guys in on today that's pretty interesting. And then be sure to stick around until the end for my 5 pro tips that you definitely will not want to miss. Hey, I'm Cassie, passionate mama, child development guru, and certified life coach, here just hoping to help make your parenting journey a little bit easier by bringing you some accurate and helpful information. All right, the simplest way for a toddler to ride a bike is to forget the training wheels and to forget the pedals. No matter what age, assuming your child is probably about at least 18 months old or so, start them off with a balance bike. Have you heard of those? It's this bike that doesn't have pedals and it doesn't have training wheels. It's really just 2 tires, a seat, and some handlebars. You don't need anything fancy. I bought one for like $30 about 12 years ago. That worked great when I was fostering those 2 little boys, and then my own 3 children after that. It has lasted all that time and is still going strong. I will link something similar in the description, but it doesn't really matter. If your child already has a bike, or maybe they're a little bit older and you're not easily finding a balance bike their size, all you need to do is just take off any training wheels, take off any pedals, and you just made a balance bike, and that will work. This is actually what I ended up doing for my daughter because she was gifted a really cute pink bike that, of course, she really wanted to ride. And so we used that instead of the yellow balance bike that I had. The idea is that your child can ease into learning how to balance with the security and the stability of having their feet on the ground, kind of like a scooter. So they'll get braver about how long they keep both feet up, and they just can get comfortable with the steering and kind of all of that other good stuff. Okay, so let me tell you about this really interesting study in the British Journal of Developmental Psychology. The primary purpose of the study was to investigate whether 2 types of training bikes resulted in a different age of onset of independent cycling on a regular bike. The results showed that children who had practiced with a balance bike started practicing at a younger age, had shorter practicing duration, and were able to cycle independently at a younger age in comparison to children who had practiced with a bicycle with training wheels. So easier, sooner, faster. Now, if you know me at all, you know that I am so far from being concerned that my kids do anything early or ahead of schedule. What I do care about, though, is the ease and joy of the experience for them and for me, of whatever it is that we're doing. So when it comes to bikes, it's a no-brainer to forget about the pedals and the training wheels and just use a balance bike until your child is ready to use a bike with pedals and no training wheels. So remember that pink bike for my daughter that I was telling you about? It was nothing but a nightmare trying to help her ride that thing with the training wheels on. Obviously she wasn't ready to be without them, but I had to be pushing her really the whole time. She had a really hard time with the pedals. It kind of like wobbled back and forth. You know how it kind of goes from pedal or from training wheel to training wheel? It just was a nightmare. And the second we took everything off, she could ride it all by herself. As far as size of balance bike, I've always lowered the seat as low as it will go because you really want your child to be able to sit on the seat and have their feet touch the ground. Once you notice them lifting up their feet a ton and you feel like they may be ready for a pedal bike, go ahead and give the pedal bike a try. No training wheels, just put them on the bike, let your hand steady them. I kind of hold the back of their neck, kind of their upper back a little bit with just one hand. It works awesome and does not break my back. And then you just kind of let them start getting the feel for the pedals. It's gonna be a new motion for them, so be patient. At first, you're not really trying to give them much momentum or be pushing them. You're really just wanting to hold them steady and balanced so that they can start working towards propelling themselves forward. So we're not really giving them momentum, we're just giving them balance at first. I found myself educating my toddler as we were working on this, that it was using his pedals that allows him to balance. I would say things like, the faster you pedal, the easier it is for you to stay upright, just kind of informing them of how a bike works, really. To be honest, I didn't really do this with my toddler, but I am going to suggest it to you, that during this time, you start practicing their brakes. They will definitely find them on their own. Like every once in a while, they'll accidentally pedal backwards instead of forwards and kind of hit the brakes. But I would also kind of test them on using their brakes every once in a while, just to get them used to that. It's really just like a safety thing so that they know how to slow down, or more likely they'll just kind of use their feet on the ground because they're so used to doing that on their balance bike, which works just fine too. So since you have a hand always on their back, you really will be able to tell how much they're needing you and relying on you to stay balanced. And once they're getting enough speed on their own by using their pedals, you can start letting go or having your hand just really lightly on them without even pushing. And then before you know it, they will be going too fast for you to comfortably keep up with. And they've kind of got it from there. They will forever know how to ride a bike. Even once they've really got it down though, expect them to need your help a little bit longer on getting started. It might be a little tricky for them to kind of get themselves moving enough to stay balanced while their feet are finding the pedals. Like, it's kind of a lot for them to do. So you might just need to give them a push start, even if they do well once they're already pedaling. Again, just be patient and just be educating them. You could say something like, when I ride my bike, I like to get my pedal ready to go at the top and put my foot on it and then push off the ground with my other foot. Other things you could say are just like, remember, we have to keep moving to stay upright. Just kind of those reminders of how it works. And I think that covers it. Quick disclaimer, if you do start teaching the pedal bike and it's not coming very easily, my advice is honestly to just go back to the balance bike and revisit the pedal bike in a couple months. That is exactly what happened with my toddler several months ago. He really, really wanted to ride his pedal bike like his big siblings were, but when we pulled it out and tried it, it just was not coming together. And we could have stuck with it, but he wasn't really enjoying it. I wasn't really enjoying it. It was just honestly a little bit too hard for him. So we just set it aside and came back to it, and it clicked so easily. So I would highly recommend that. It's just really worth waiting until they're ready so that both of you can have a really positive experience with it. For me, some signs that your child may not be ready for their pedal bike would be they need help steering. That definitely, to me, means they're not ready. If they're not really working the pedals very much, like maybe their legs aren't strong enough, or they're just not getting that motion, or if they're stuck pushing the brakes like all the time, like they just cannot stop from doing that. Or if it's just kind of feeling like a nightmare, like that's reason enough to just, take a step back. Don't be discouraged. Just tell your child that it was really, really fun getting a little taste of that, and it will be super exciting to try that again in a couple months. It doesn't need to be a big deal. All right, 5 pro tips before I send you on your way. Number 1, make sure their tires are properly pumped with air. Flat tires make it 10 times harder for them to ride the bike. Number 2, recognize that it's going to be much, much easier for your child to learn on a pedal bike on a completely flat surface or even a slight downhill. It wasn't until the day of helping my toddler ride his bike that I realized that our street was slightly uphill in the one direction, and so then of course slightly downhill on the other direction. Your child will need a lot more help from you on the uphill until their legs get stronger, so it's just a lot more work for both of you. Number 3, make wearing a helmet and shoes non-negotiable. I never have to remind my kids that this is a rule because it has always been ingrained from day one that they are not allowed to ride anything without a helmet and shoes. Not bikes, not scooters, not skateboards, nothing. Safety first. That is such an easy rule to have. It's just important, and a helmet has saved my son multiple times. Number 4, if they fall down or crash, don't make it a big deal. They're wearing a helmet, they're going super slow. I'm sure they're gonna be totally fine. So the thing you want to instill is that it's just part of learning, and we get back up and we keep trying. The script I use is something like, "Crash, you're working so hard at this," and then acknowledging, "I love how you got back up and tried it again." You're just wanting to praise their effort, not necessarily what they're accomplishing. Number 5, correct, don't criticize. The hardest part when we're taking on teaching our child something new is keeping our emotions in check and making sure that we are not the problem. Try to stay neutral about how quickly or slowly they're catching on and just verbalize what you're seeing. "There's your brakes," is what I would always say when my toddler accidentally pushed back on the pedals. It can feel a little frustrating. We're pushing them and then here we are stopping, but that's just stating kind of what happened is so much different than, "I told you don't push back. That slows you down. Don't do that. Why do you keep doing that?" Just teach and correct, but don't criticize. That's it. You got this. If you are finding it hard to avoid getting frustrated at your child during this difficult new task, go ahead and book a free coaching call with me, and I would absolutely love to get to know you and help you work through that. It's 30 minutes over Zoom. I will put the link in the description. Good luck, and I will see you very soon.